Welcome to the Best Known Church Show, where we show you how to 10x your reach with church marketing that will help you increase your impact, make more disciples, and become the cornerstone of your community again. This is for the leaders with an outrageous vision, because anything less would be an inaccurate reflection of our Creator. The ones who have unreasonable faith, because you know God works unreasonable miracles. And the ones who are relentless in the pursuit of your calling, because anything less would not make a good and faithful servant. If that's you, you're in the right place. Now, please welcome your host and guide on this journey to become the best known organization in your community, Justin Nava.
Welcome to the Best Known Church Show. I'm very excited for today. I'm excited for every day, really. Today is one thing that will give you so much clarity. You will not communicate your church the same way. When you tell people at the grocery store about your church, when you tell people in your family, your friends, when you invite them to your ministry events, when you invite kids to camp, when you talk to parents about the kids' ministry, this one question will change everything in your church. And I'm very excited. It's going to change your mindset. It's going to change your leadership. It's going to change your staff, your congregation, and eventually it will change your community. It is one simple question, and not only that, when I say simple, it is not even a question. It is a word. One word, when asked as a question, will just change everything. Dying churches do not ask this question. They look and see what they're doing, and they say, what's wrong? That's the wrong question to ask. Before I give you the answer to that question, what is that? The answer to that question. Before I give you the question to ask in the first place, wherever you're watching this, like, subscribe, leave a comment. I'd love to get to meet you. You can always give me a call at my number. The one simple question that grows a church, and when it's not asked, will expedite that church's death, is 3 letters. W-H-Y. Why? That's it. Now, if you're just a shallow leader, if you're just someone that's like, I just want to find a quick fix, you are going to click off of this podcast, off of this show, off this YouTube video, and that's okay because this isn't for you. The show today is going to be a little bit shorter. It's going to be to the point, but it's not going to be 3 minutes long because we have to expand on this for a little bit. Because you cannot just read a verse and understand how it applies to your life in a few minutes. We need to sit on it. We need to meditate on it. And I want to challenge you with this. If you're still watching this right now, you got to know, how do I ask this question? It's not just, why do I do this because Jesus tells me to. That's why we're in the situation that we are in churches. We just do things because we think we're supposed to. We don't ask why. We don't ask why we're doing this. We don't ask why not do this. And that is why churches are dying, because they're not asking this question. So wherever you are, first of all, I want you to like, subscribe, do all that jazz that you're supposed to do. But let me pose it to you in a way that really changed my life. And that's with a little thought experiment. Now, wherever you are, I assume you're near a road. Now, I want you to imagine across the street is $100. My question to you is, whatever that road is if it's a highway, if it's your street, the street your house is on, or the street your church is on, or even if you're on that road, ask this question: would I cross that road for $100? If it's a street like mine and it's just the street your house is on, yeah, I would get up right now and cross the street for $100. I think that's great. There's $100 cash out there. Perfect. All right. Maybe you live off a highway, or maybe you're right now, where you're watching or listening to this, you're near a highway, and you got to imagine $100 is across that highway. I am not crossing that highway for $100. Okay, perfect. Let me raise it. Let's 10x it. $1,000. Would you cross that highway for $1,000? Some people might say, yeah, I could do a lot for me right now. Some other people might say $1,000 is still not worth it. Okay, $10,000. Let's 10x it. Let's 10x it again. $100,000. If there was $100,000, I wouldn't even say cash. Let's say a cashier's check, right? So you can deposit it in your bank and be able to use it later today without causing issues, questions, or the government coming down on you. $100,000 legit cashier's check. Would you cross that highway? I think most people would say yes. How about $1 million? Would you cross that highway for $1 million? For you or your church, do whatever you want with it. No strings attached. All you got to do is cross that highway. Well, hey, even if I get hit by a car, break a leg, bruise or something, that's a few $100,000. I still got, I think it's worth it, right? Cool. Okay, let me bring it back now. So there is a threshold. The point of that exercise is there is a threshold for you to take risk and to do something that you normally wouldn't do. Now let's picture your street where you live. Okay, would you cross that road? Let's bring it back here. So we're all on this street. Would you cross that road for $100? Yes. Okay, perfect. Would you cross that street for $1,000? Yes. I think most sane people, $1,000 cash right across the street, you would get up off your booty and go get that $1,000. All right. What if you were barefoot? If you were barefoot, you could not put shoes on. Would you cross that street for $1,000? I think most people would say yes. Probably the people that are dealing with the heat wave in Texas, Florida, or even in Pakistan, where it's 120 degrees, might say no. It's not worth it for $1,000. I'm going to burn my feet. I'm going to lose productivity. I'm going to have to go to the hospital, urgent care, whatever. Not worth it for $1,000. Okay, I get it. If you would still cross that street, it's 102 degrees here in Texas. I would still cross that street barefoot for $1,000. I think I can make it. I think I can survive it. I think I can do it. What if there was shattered glass across the street? Would you cross it for $1,000? 102 degrees, shattered glass, $1,000 cash. Would you cross the street? At that point, I'm out. There might still be some people that could deal with it. Great. $1,000, most people would be out. Barefoot, shattered glass. Yeah. Okay. Now, what if there was a truck racing down the street and you had to cross it and there was a good chance you were going to get hit by that truck? Barefoot, shattered glass, truck barreling towards you. Would you do it for $1,000? No, I wouldn't. I don't think most sane men, I say all sane men and women, would not cross the street. Shattered glass, barefoot, truck barreling at you for $1,000. $1 million? Nope, not worth it to me. Probably going to lose my life. It's going to be tough. Nope, not worth $1 million. Is there any amount of money where you would cross the street, barefoot, shattered glass, truck barreling out at you 102 degrees? Would you cross the street for $1 million? I wouldn't. It's not worth it. Is there any amount of money? No. Okay, so there is a threshold to which you will take certain action. Now, Pastor, let me ask you one more time. This time I'm changing what's across the street. 102 degrees, shattered glass, truck barreling at you. This time, instead of cash money across the street, it's your wife and she's about to be abused. Would you cross that street? Yes, I would. And again, I think all sane men would. There is a threshold for which we take actions. And I think over time, I don't think this, I know, over time we lose sight of what that threshold is and what the outcome of our actions are compared to what that threshold is. Money is just something that we use that's an easy measurement. Would you cross the street for $100? Yeah. Would you cross the street over shattered glass barefoot for $100? No. Would you do it to save your family? Yeah. We've seen better men than I do much more, go through much more hardship for much less return. And this thought experiment does a really good job of allowing us to discover why we do things and how it impacts the actions we take. I will do whatever it takes. I put it on my Instagram earlier this week. My core value, my first core value. Family first. Whatever is happening, if my family is having issues, hardships, or about to lose their lives or be physically harmed, I will cross whatever threshold to make sure that they are safe and secured. Why? Because the family is important to me. I will sacrificially love and do whatever it takes to take care of my family. Cash money? Nah, don't care about that. It's not worth it. Why? Because if I get injured, if I lose productivity, if I cannot do my duties as a husband, I failed my family. So I don't care what kind of cash money's across there. If I'm going to risk my life for it, it's not worth it if it's going to sacrifice myself or my family. or if it's going to harm my family, which is what that comes to. So there is a threshold to why we do things, and there is certain things that will get in our way to where we say that is not what I want to do. And that comes back to why. Why would I not cross the road for $1,000 when I would cross it for $100? Well, because there's stuff in the way. There's things that which that $1,000 becomes no longer reasonable for me to go through harm's way. However, same harm, different result, saving my wife, then yes, I will do that. So there are there are reasons we do things and go through certain thresholds, and there are reasons why we don't go through certain hardships to get a result, right? I hope that makes sense, because this really comes down to the one simple question that grows our church. It's the same question we ask when we choose to do something, whether we go to Disney World or save our money, whether we go across the street for some money or whether we go across the street to save our families. And that question is why? Have you ever done something and someone asks you, why would you do that? Why did you do that? That was so XYZ. That was so smart. Why did you do that? How did you see that happening? Or that was so stupid. Why did you see that happening? How did you see that coming out any different? This is the question that we need to ask, that all growing churches ask, which is, why are we doing this? We are doing this because there are people hurting out there. That we are doing this because this is our calling, and churches don't ask that question. Why are we doing this? They just do it because this is the way we've always done it. This is the only way I know how to do it. This is the way I was taught. This is the way my parents did it, and therefore it's the way that we do it. This is the way that I was taught to do it. We're always going to do it this way. Growing churches ask us, why are we doing this? They walk into a church and see that they're just spinning their wheels and say, why are we doing this? Let's stop it and do something else. Whereas dying churches don't even ask that. They just keep doing it. It's that old definition, right? What's the definition of insanity? Doing the same thing over and over again and expecting different results. So you have to understand that there are reasons we do things and there are reasons we don't do this. The ultimate difference is why. That's my daughter's favorite joke for a long time. Why did the chicken cross the road? So let me break down 3 things that you always need to keep in mind when doing anything in your church, but also in promoting it. And that's the first thing is simply ask why, right? Why? I mean, good question that I ask pastors that they just don't have an answer for because they haven't asked the question yet, which is why. Okay. Great example, just because I'm a marketing guy. This works for anything in ministry, but we're going to take it from a marketing bent because that's what we are. We're a marketing agency for churches. Why do you have a kids ministry? Well, because kids need something to do while parents are in church, because parents need a break so they can go have Sunday brunch, because kids need age-appropriate learning. While parents are in church, the kids can be grown. Maybe it's because kids are the future and we need to raise them and rear them in the way that they should go. Maybe it's because the kids are being bombarded by stuff Monday through Saturday, and Sunday is the one place they can learn the God's honest truth. Maybe it's because no one else is teaching our kids these things, and so the church is going to step up. That's the actual history of Sunday school, is that no one was teaching kids how to read. And so churches opened up on Sundays and said, hey, when you're not at work, because this was back when the kids were working, come to church and learn how to read. And what was the curriculum? The Bible. It's where we get Sunday school from. So why did Sunday school start? It's a completely different reason than why we do it now. So the question is, why are we having Sunday school? Why do we use this curriculum? Why do we background check teachers? Why do we XYZ? Because of this. And dying churches do not ask why. So let me ask you, Pastor, if you feel like your church is dying, stagnant, plateaued, have you asked why? And going back to the marketing bent, have you asked why and answered that question in your promotions? How many times have you asked parents who bring their kids to Sunday service and you tell them, hey, did you know we have Sunday school? Did you know we have kids classes? Did you know we have kids church? And they say, nah, I'm good. It's not that they don't know you have it. It's that they don't know why they should trust you with their kid. Why should my kid go to to Sunday school when I know they're safer here with me? Because there was an issue possibly in their past where their kid got in trouble, got harmed, got neglected in Sunday school, and now I don't see why I should take my kids to kids' church when I can have them safely here with me. And so anytime, let's say you're doing a church potluck, right? Hey, come to church potluck Sundays at 12. We have the same 20 people that constantly come. Why is no one else coming to our potluck? It's not because they don't know. It's because they don't know why. Why should I go to your church potluck and have interesting food, to be polite about it, when I can go home and eat the food that I like, or go to a restaurant and eat the food that I like? Why is this important? Why is potluck important? Because community. Why? These are the questions. We always drill down why. I asked someone earlier this week, why do you have a website? Because it's important for people to know about what we do. Why? That's a good question. We've just always had a website the last decade, and so we just always have one. Well, that's why your website doesn't do anything for you. That's why your website doesn't serve as an asset to your church's 5-year goal, even your church's 6-month goal. If your goal for your church is to reach another 1,000 people by the end of 2022, how is your website helping you with that? Because honestly, it's a waste of money if it's not aligned with your goals. Really? Something that I am really struggling with this year, and I think it's a good struggle. It's not like, why isn't this working? It's, is this really accomplishing our goals? Is if a church is, let's just be super simple and generalistic here. If a church's mission is to make disciples who make disciples, what is the point of having a website? You don't need a website to be a church that makes disciples who make disciples. The website plays no part in that, at least the way it is built right now. And then when we actually go through a discovery process and strategy process and say, hey, by the way, your website does not help you make disciples who make disciples. Here's how it would help that. They look at me and say, oh, that's not what a website should do. Yeah, you're right. Most websites, they don't make disciples. Here's how you would have a website that actually does make disciples and helps your disciples make more disciples. And they look at me like I'm speaking tongues. It's an entirely different strategy, and it's an entirely different process. But guess what? When you actually approach the things of your church, the assets of your church in this way, your church becomes radically different. And looking at growing churches, they are radically different. It's the craziest thing. The other question you should ask is, why not? That's almost in a marketing in a marketing sense, we call that objections or objection handling. You also need to address why not. That's also going to help you figure out why people aren't coming to your church, why people are not coming to your church events. Why should we go to VBS? Well, I'm asking that as a parent. Why should I go to VBS? Because it's a great age-appropriate way for my students to refocus themselves without the distraction of school, without the distractions of the things that happen at school and homework and extracurriculars. Take a week, go to VBS, have some fun, but also learn about Jesus. And since you're available, we can see him every day. I think that's great. Now, why not? I got work. How am I going to take my kids to a 10 a.m. vacation Bible school? I can't do that. This question asking why and why not has also led to many churches doing evening VBSs. My church went from regular 9 to 12 VBS to evening 6 to 8. We shortened it an hour and we put it in the evenings. Our VBS attendance doubled. And our advertising budget was able to be halved. So we halved our budget and we doubled our results because we asked why and why not. Sorry, I hit my desk. I don't know if that came out through the recording there. Now, the other thing too is why not? Why have people not been coming to church? Well, because they don't see a reason why. Because they look at our website, no matter how unique we are, we look like every other church. So you have to address why not. Why not? I mean, not only why come to church, but why not come to church? Well, hey, it's hard to get 3 kids out. You say you're a church for families, yet you have service at 9:30 in the morning. You know how hard it is to get my kids up for church, for school, and then when the world is telling them, hey, Sunday's a day to sleep in, nope, you're waking up at 7 again. That's hard. So you have to ask why, and you also have to ask why not. And then you have to do this on different levels. Okay? So anytime, let's just pick an example. Let's just talk about your church service. Right? Why should people come to your church service? Because it's a place to get renewed and encouraged, and a place to find out your purpose. That's great. Now, why not? Why not stay at home? Because I want you to come to church, so why not stay at home? You have to answer that question. Look, life is extremely difficult. And the reason you're feeling the way you're feeling is because you haven't done anything different. So why not stay at home? Why not come to church? It's easier to stay at home, but the reason that you are the way you are is because you've always chosen the easy path to stay at home instead of come to church. Now, that's not exactly your marketing pitch, right? There's a whole process that we go through called the Definitive Church Marketing Method that lays out the first step is the messaging, where we figure out why, and then we also figure out why not. These are just simple examples. And then you have to run that through layers, okay? So, Pastor, let me ask you this. Why should your community go to church on Sunday morning, if that's when your church is? Right? And then you will say, well, gosh, you might say, I'll just use an example, a discussion we had. People are struggling in our community. They are running. It's a high immigrant community. A lot of people are coming, or a lot of people are fleeing to this community because it's easily reached because it's on the border. And our community is fleeing a better life, and what better life is there than one with Jesus? So yes, our community, in chase of a better life, needs to be a part of our Sunday morning worship. I think that's great. So how come your website just says, welcome to church, Sundays at 9:30 and Wednesdays at 7:30? That's the first thing I see. I don't see anything about better life, better purpose, better family, better sense of self-worth, better identity. What better identity is there than one that's found in Jesus? Yet your church looks like everything else. So why should I go to your church? I don't see any of that. All I see is, why should I go to your church? Because it's Sundays at 9:30. And this is why this is one of the reasons why the churches do not grow, is because we just do what we've always done. We've always told people our church is at 9:30. Well, our church is at 11. Therefore, they must come to our church at 11 because we let them sleep in a little bit more. That's not why people are coming to church. And so making that your primary pitch on your website, on your Facebook profile, hey, don't forget to come to church, we do it at 11, that is not going to bring anyone else to your church. Let's talk about your congregation, because you have to ask that question, why? Start with a big thing. Why do we need to go to your community? Your message needs to reach out to those people, but also, I would say, controversially, also, your congregation needs to be even more on board than your community, because they are the ones who actually go out and make those disciples and invite your community. And so when your congregation, let's say Joe, goes out and actually invites people to church, and they say, oh man, our church service is the best. Pastor will teach you and give you encouragement. The worship is encouraging. You've got to come be a part of it. And then they look you up in Google and say, well, this just looks like every other church. This isn't what Joe told me. This just looks like the church that used to slap my wrists and be so boring I would fall asleep and then get in trouble because I've got an inappropriate bumper sticker on my car. They pulled me out of church to go yell at me for that. Why would I go to a church like that? This looks just like that church. All that aside, let's talk about your congregation. Why should your congregation be a part of the church? Well, it's to It's to equip them to be better disciples. Does your congregation know that? Because this is why we fight the fights that we do in leadership. This is why we have the obstacles presented in front of us when we make changes to the worship to better align with our mission and the vision that God's given us. And then our congregation says, this isn't what I signed up for. This isn't what I wanted. Because you haven't casted that why. Why are they coming to church? Well, it's because they think it's going to be just like the church they were a part of before they came to yours. The church they grew up in. They don't have that mindset of being a disciple maker. They have the mindset of feed me. They're infants in Christ. They're babies in Christ. They're young children in Christ. And so they are very selfishly approaching it. And you have the opportunity to say, this is why we have worship the way we do it. You have to cast that why, and you have to answer that why. And then also, why not do it this way? This is what you have to ask. Why is this important to my congregation? And then cast that vision. Because if you say God has called us to be disciple makers, and we're going to talk about this, and we're going to struggle with this, and we're going to meditate on this as a congregation, therefore, when we make this change, you're going to have 2 people fight you instead of 200. Because you have casted this vision of why. We do this really well with ourselves. We may even do it pretty good with our our leadership. We don't do it well with our congregation, and most churches don't do it at all with their community. So you have to ask why, and you also have to ask why not. Pastor, I don't like that we do this contemporary worship. I want to go back to the hymns. Or let's actually flip it, because I think we've had that conversation enough. Let's flip it. Pastor, I don't like that we're singing this hymn. I want to sing more of the good stuff. Well, we're here to equip you to be a better disciple maker. And this hymn really there's just nothing like it that gets us in that mindset and that spiritual frame to receive the God's message that I have, that he's given me to give to you. Oh, okay, well, I get that now. Or, no, that's stupid. Well, then you know what your next steps are for them. But then not only that, your leadership, you have to ask why with your leadership. Why are we doing this? And this is a question, again, we're really pretty good at asking for our leadership, right? Why are we doing it this way? It's the way we've always done it. Is it working right now? Because attendance is down, impact is down, decisions are down, communication is down, relationships are down. Maybe the way we've always done it is not working anymore. You have what you have because of what you've done. And if you want something that you've never had, you're going to have to do something you've never done. Let me say it again. You have what you have because of what you've done. And if you want something that you've never had before, you're going to have to do something that you've never done in a way that you've probably never done it. Why? That's the $1 million question. And if you don't ask that question, my bet is that you are a dying church. And then finally, you have to ask that question for yourself. Why am I preaching this way? Why am I not preaching that way? So you have to start asking why, and then you also have to start communicating why. You can't just say Sundays at 9:30. Why? Hope and healing takes place here. So if you are hurting, you need to be here Sundays at 9:30 so we can equip you to stop hurting, so we can lay on hands with you to stop hurting and start healing. If you are feeling hopeless, we want to communicate this message to you. And yeah, you can get the message online, and there's no problem with that. the first time you can hear it, the absolute earliest time that you can hear this message that God has given me to give to you is Sunday at 9:30. Be here. If you can't be here, watch at this point at 9:30 because why? Because you will be the first to have it. This is your first opportunity to have it. And if that does not work for you, if you are out of town, if you are unavailable, if you have other family commitments, then I want you to subscribe, like, follow our church online, be connected with us online. Why? Because no matter what happens, you will be able to access this at a time that is next most convenient to you. And let me tell you this, if you communicate why, the time that is most convenient to them will be when you are communicating it, when you are preaching, when you are actively worshiping. And if being in church, in service, in person is most important to you, Pastor, then you need to communicate that why. And just saying it's better is not good. That's like saying cross that 102-degree heat pavement barefoot with shattered glass because it's better, because having $10 is better than not having $10. Not when I have to do all that, not when the threshold is that high. But if the threshold, if the outcome is more hope, is less suicide, is better relationships, is a better life lived through Jesus, yes, I will cross those thresholds. If the outcome is my family will be better off, my kids will be better off, then yes, I will take my shoes off. I will cross that pavement in 102 degrees. That would fry an egg. That will cause me harm. If my family is better off for it and avoids the pain that I mentioned earlier, yes, I will do that. And so you have to communicate why. Because it's better to be in person? Yeah, absolutely, I agree. However, if to be there in person, I have to risk my life like many people have felt in the last 2 years, then yeah, I'm not going in person. You have to communicate why. And you have to communicate why not to the alternatives. This is something we miss, and this is one of the big reasons why churches that are dying stay on that dying path, is because they are not asking why, and then they are not communicating why. Let me leave you with this, a conversation I had this week. Why is your relationships in church and with Jesus important to your community? And the pastor said, because our community is killing themselves, literally. They are literally killing. The suicide rates are on the rise. So yeah, we need to do everything because a life is about to be taken across the street. And we are going to, even though it hurts us, to do things that we've never done and to spend money we've never spent and to communicate in a way that's never been communicated. And we're going to take some heat for it. But if in the end, the suicide rate in our community goes down, it will have been worth it. And then I said, why is this important to your community? Why is it, your congregation? Why is it important to your congregation for more people to be aware of your church and the message of your church? And he told me, he said, because our congregation, it is some of them that might kill themselves, but also it is their friends. It is their family that has so little hope that they are killing themselves. And it is affecting our congregation. And then I said, why is it important to your leadership? that more people are aware of your church. And it's not because, well, our leadership, their salary is dependent on how well they do. No, it's because our leadership are having these conversations and they're having to counsel our congregation because they are becoming hopeless because the community is hopeless. There it is. And then I said, Pastor, why is this important to you? And it is not because I want to get more people in church to raise my salary and raise my ego. No, it's because this is my purpose. And when I get to heaven, I want God to tell me, well done. I don't want him to say, I gave you this opportunity and you turned it down. The one simple question that grows a church is why. And the reason that church grows is because they communicate why. We see this in our own data, and I refuse to build another website that has a giving page that does not express why. Now you ask yourself, why? Why can I not just link out to our giving software, or why can I not just take their money there on the giving page? Because if you look at our data from all of our clients, but then you can also expand it to every nonprofit or every church or every charity or anyone that wants your money, when you answer why, giving goes up. Even in our own websites, when we don't have a giving page that explains why, or why should I give, or why is giving important, when we do insert that information and clarify why, giving goes up. So what would you do with more giving? That's the question. Just as an example, what would you do with more people? Why is it important for you to have more people? Why is it important for your city to know about your church? That drives me. I know that drives you. That most likely drives your leadership. And there's a good chance that when you communicate why to your congregation, they will go out and they will do more for the kingdom, for Jesus, for also your church. And when you communicate why to your community, there will be actions taken to engage with your church, to engage with the gospel, to engage with that healing opportunity. But you have to answer why. And if you know your why, and you are struggling to communicate it, give us a call. We're going to walk through. The first 3 times we talk, Pastor, I guarantee you, we will not pitch you. We will not pressure you. We won't even promote ourselves. The first 3 calls we have with you are all about you. Why? Because this is how we see results happen, whether it's with us or without. So give us a call, 832-871-7654. Excuse me, 832-861-7654. The number's going to be at the end of this in a few seconds. I should make a lower third. I'm going to do that next week. And we will help you communicate that why. Because this is our calling. This is our passion. And yes, I'm a capitalist. This is our profit. The reason it is our profit, the reason it is because we're good at it. The reason we're good at it is because it's our passion. The reason it's our passion is because it's our calling. The same reason, Pastor, that you do what you do is why we do what we do. Except instead of being gifted in preaching, we're gifted in other ways. And so we will do this with you, and we will do it for you. So give us a call at the number 832-861-7654. Like, subscribe wherever you're watching this. Clarify. Ask that question, why? And then communicate that question, why? Secondarily, ask why not? And then communicate why not? Why not stay at home? Why not come to church? These are the things you have to answer. Communicate it to yourself, communicate it to your staff, communicate it to your leadership, communicate it to your congregation, and then communicate it to your community. You will see growth and you will see death stay on the doorstep, and then you'll see it go even further away. God bless you guys. I'll see you next week, or when you decide to call me, or visit our website, navachurchmarketing.com.
That's going to do it for today's episode of the Best Known Church Show with Justin Nava. Be sure to subscribe to stay updated on the latest news, strategies, and resources that you need to reach 10x more people and become the best known in your community. To send us a message or leave a voicemail for Justin to be played on a future show, visit thebestknownchurchshow.com. And if you'd like to work with us so you can focus on your ministry, give us a call at 832-861-7654. Until next time, stay outrageous, unreasonable, and relentless.